Bom dia, Eva Cordia. Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, or if you're watching a recording of this chat. So, Eimear Burke here. Welcome to another Fireside Chat where I'm in conversation with a member of the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids. So, I would like to start with a prayer for peace. Gamara Shiakon ar fud na crinne. Gamara Shiakon in our jaili agus in our dirha. Gunairi lin len ar cuid garmacha. Galmich buichas dív, jeha chwivdacha. Is spirit critical. May peace prevail on earth. May peace prevail in our homes and in our countries. May our missions be accomplished. We thank you, guardian spirits and guardian deities. For peace, as the fever of day calms towards twilight, may all that is strained in us come to ease. We pray for all who suffered violence today. May an unexpected serenity surprise them. For those who risk their lives each day for peace, may their hearts glimpse providence at the heart of history. For those who make riches from violence and war, might hear in their dreams the cries of the lost. That we might see through our fear of each other a new vision to heal our fatal attraction to aggression. That those who enjoy the privilege of peace might not forget their tormented brothers and sisters. That the wolf might lie down with the lamb, that our swords be beaten unto plowshares, and no hurt or harm be done anywhere along the Holy Mountain, with thanks to John O'Donoghue. So, lovely to be here and to see you all, and see Corrie Raven, who was my guest last week, and Paul from Cornwall, New Zealand, Portugal, West Virginia, deepest, darkest Elmer's End. What a place. Crouch End, New York, Belgium. Lovely to see you all. Where else are we in? Montreal, lovely Minnesota, Washington, Italy. Absolutely lovely to see you all. So we are going to the Netherlands this evening, and I would like to introduce you to Marjorie Pennings. Marjorie, you're so welcome.
Thank you, Eimear. Great to see you again. Yeah. And it's fantastic to be here this evening talking to you.
Okay, so tell us where you are in the Netherlands and what your landscape is like.
Okay, I'm in a tiny village in the middle of the Netherlands. I'm living in a national park. So at the end of the street here behind my house, the forest starts. And it runs for about, I think, 30 miles somewhere. And I'm living on a ridgeway, so it is one of the older parts of the Netherlands. We are right in the landscape of the ridgeway, which was already inhabited in Neolithical times, and one of the big rivers here in the Netherlands. So there has always been a lot of traffic on the river from Rome and Germany towards the North Sea. So yeah, for me, it's a great place to live.
So you're talking about a ridgeway. I know the Netherlands is very, very flat. So are you saying it's on a height, like a road, an ancient roadway?
Yeah. And it is, it is a ridgeway, and maybe it's 15 meters height or 20 meters height, but for Holland, that is
a mountain.
That is quite a mountain. And my village actually is called Three Mountains.
So either you have three little hills or somebody had a great sense of humor.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I probably will be dry here when the sea rises. Yeah.
Aha. Okay. Yeah. So are you, is the ridgeway quite broad? So if you're living on it, or are you looking at it?
When I drive on my bicycle for about 5-6 kilometers, then I really see it in the flat landscape, and it really rises up, and it is forested, and you can find old burial mounds on it. It is it feels like a magical landscape. Yeah.
Yes, I was going to ask you what kind of, are there any ancient sites there? But you say there are burial mounds.
Yeah.
And how far back do they date?
They date back to Neolithical times, so at least before our starting of our years, and I'm really not sure exactly how old they were, but these were one of the oldest settlements here in the Netherlands,
Okay.
because a lot of the other land was marsh and swamp, and that there were not that many drier fields. So the people here on the Ridgeway, they had dry land. And because they were close to the river, and so they could travel by boats. And there's also a town not far from here where they found that people were making jewelry from silver. And so the silver was brought over here, and there was a lot of trade in Roman times. So, yeah,
So you don't have silver mines in the Netherlands, but they were imported.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
so every year around Samhain with our grove nearby, we do Samhain ceremony on one of the burial mounds,
Oh,
and
lovely.
it is really a beautiful place. It has 8 beech trees on top of it, so it's really a secluded grove with trees on top. Yeah,
That sounds absolutely wonderful.
yeah,
Brilliant.
yeah, yeah.
So, what brought you to Druidry?
Okay.
Can you
Uh,
remember?
yeah, I can remember. Well, actually, um, not so long after I graduated, I've studied psychology, and not so long after I graduated, a friend of mine introduced me to an astrologer. And at that time, I was thinking of doing another course in body-centered therapy. And I was not sure whether I would pursue that or not. And then I thought, let's go and see that astrologer, and to maybe find some confirmation of the idea of doing this study.
Hmm.
So I went to him, and to my surprise, he said to me, well, when I look at your chart, Marjorie, I think it is a longing for you in life to connect with a spiritual community, but in
Ah,
your case, specifically related to nature.
oh,
And I was really surprised, and it was sort of a mystery for me what he meant. And I started to do this course in the body-centered therapy, and he was one of my teachers. So a couple of years later, I again asked him, what do you mean by that? Because I don't have any ideas about it. And I was living in Amsterdam, and I was doing ceremonies with North American native people. And I was standing in the circle, and I was really attracted to it. I was really curious and learning about all different kinds of traditions. And I was doing a ceremony with this Native American healer and shaman. And I found it so interesting, but I thought I'm in the wrong circle somehow.
yeah.
These animals are not from our country. It felt really interesting, but sort of not really fitting. And then at one point, a couple of years later, I was meditating in a park where I lived, and I was really longing for a place where I could travel to for a couple of weeks. I wanted to go on a spiritual retreat, wondering whether I would go to France or to Spain or places that I knew. And then it was it was like I heard a voice speaking to me saying, you need to go to the UK. And I thought, huh? Why do I have to go to the UK? And it was not some intuitive voice. It was almost like there was a person standing next to me. It was very strange experience. And I thought, well, I need to take this voice serious, because it was quite loud in my ears for 2 times. Um, and then a colleague of mine, I didn't know her really well. Um, she was new to our firm at that time, and she said that she was going to the UK for a couple of days because she wanted to live there. She wanted to live for a time in the UK, somewhere in the southern parts of England. and still work in the Netherlands. And I thought, well, I have to start somewhere, because I had no clue where to start looking for somewhere in the UK. So I asked her, I said, I have this strange request. I have a strange question. I want to go on a retreat. I want to go somewhere to a spiritual place where I can help or do voluntary work and stay there for a couple of weeks. But I don't know where to begin. So if you start looking for a place to live, maybe you see or hear something. And she really had to laugh, she said, this is fantastic. I know a place where you can go to. These people are building a spiritual retreat center in the UK. You can visit this person because she's coming to the Netherlands next week. And by the way, I'm a Druid. And so it came. And I immediately knew this is what I was looking for. So I met this lady next week. She came to Holland to give a workshop about Druidry. And then she said, well, you are welcome at my place, so visit us in the summer. And so I booked a ticket to the UK and drove with my car to the borders and stayed there for a couple of weeks and got an introduction about Druidry. And I started with the course.
So where was the retreat center and who was it?
It was the farm of Will and Thea Worthington, and they were living in the borders at that time, and they wanted to build a retreat center for Obot. Yeah. So I stayed for them. I stayed with them for a couple of weeks and helped them painting their house and doing work in the garden. And they told me about Druidry. So yeah, that was the beginning of a big adventure.
Wow. Wonderful. Wonderful. Oh, that's a lovely story. That is a really, really lovely story. So, of course, you were at the summer gathering in Glastonbury. How often do you go to Glastonbury?
No, once every couple of years, I think. When I started Druidry, I just dived in the deep end and traveled to England quite a lot, to the assemblies, to the white horse camps, to the retreat on Iona. But the last couple of years, I probably travel once every 2 or 3 years, maybe.
Okay. It's just interesting in the chat here, there are a number of people who feel a call to go to the UK. Yeah. So you are not alone in that.
Yeah.
And then Roland says, in the southwest and south of England, there are many magical places where you drift into another land. Yes, indeed. So, and then Anne says, it's so good to hear the story of a calling happening so directly, being called to the Druid traditions. That's beautiful. Yes.
Yeah. And it is, I always find that when I travel to the UK, somehow in the landscape, especially in the power places, in the really, in Avery, in Stonehenge, in Glastonbury, but also up in Scotland. When you journey there and when you do meditations there, it's just like the mystical, the visions or the images are different and stronger than here in the Netherlands. It is different, the experience. Yeah.
That's lovely to hear that. Do you have a favorite place or a place that you have a really, really strong resonance with in the UK?
I have a really strong resonance with Iona.
Okay. Yes.
I've been fortunate to have experienced two retreats with the Druid community there, and yes, I love the island because the atmosphere is so gentle and so there's so much stillness. So it is really easy to let go and to relax in the stillness and to open up for the history and the stories and everything that the landscape tells you. That is one of my favorite places.
Is there a place particularly that calls to you on Iona? I'm just curious.
Yeah. Dunai and the sacred map, Dunai, yeah. And I love St. Columba's Bay as well, you know,
Yes,
just to be there for hours looking at the stones and hearing the water and sensing the land. Yeah. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah. No, I thought Dooney was lovely. And the well of the ever young. It's just so lovely to have, you know, to actually see that well. Just beautiful. And the stones are incredible on Columba's Bay. I mean, those little, are they Angel's Tears or Columba's Tears? They're just beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. And somebody made a labyrinth over there with stones on the beach there. So it is such a beautiful combination to be there, to sit there and walk the labyrinth as well. So it's a great place to be for a retreat. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, so obviously this is a long time. I don't know when you joined the order. You're in the order a long time, yeah?
Yeah, since 2000.
Okay. So when you think of yourself as a Druid, you know, is it something you do or is it something you are? How do you recognize your Druidry within yourself?
Okay. I think I'm sort of switching. I'm sort of switching off and on sometimes. It depends a little bit on what is happening in my life. Because sometimes I notice that when I'm really busy with work, and I'm really busy with being in the world, I sometimes lose a little bit track of the felt sense of especially the wild nature. Yeah, you know, it's like being in the city for a long time and that you need to retreat and be for a couple of days in wild nature before the energy of the wildness really soaks into your skin. So, you know, I feel that I am Druidry and this is really my path. And I practice a lot with the meditations and tuning into nature. But still, I feel myself, you know, sometimes it's like you're thirsty or something. being a lot in the world and doing a lot of work and then, you know, sort of feeling a bit thirsty of really wanting to reconnect on a deeper level with the nature and the natural landscape. So yeah, so then I'm go hiking for a couple of days, or you know, taking some time off, and you know, really sitting in the grove in the forest to reconnect on a deeper level. Yeah,
it's beautiful. Do you have a daily practice?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so do you want to share that? I mean, you don't have to. Just
my daily practice is when I get out of bed, I usually do my daily practice of meditation and prayer is usually early in the morning before I start my day, because it really helps me to ground myself. So usually I go out into my garden and really ground myself with the earth here, the center of Mother Earth. I connect to the sky, the four directions, and I really connect with the felt sense of the day. I say a prayer and formulate my intentions for the day. And then usually indoors, I do some yoga and sometimes a meditation. It depends a little bit about how busy I am, or if I have to have an early start, or if I have some more time. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Do you I don't know if you've you explored the bardic arts, but do you have a sense of where you get Awen or Imas from? And if so, how do you express it in terms of how do you express your creativity?
Mhm. That's a really good question, because sometimes I don't know where it comes from. Sometimes it's just like it hits you, like you
Uh-huh.
are unaware, sort of cleaning the house, and then suddenly poof, it's there. But usually I need to go hiking. I need to really be away. And I need to move.
Okay.
So I need to be hiking or maybe horse riding or dancing. Dancing is also for me a
Mm.
really good way to open myself up for the inspiration of Awen. And I have to have time. I really have to have space in my mind to be calm and quiet inside for the Awen to come in. Um, And how do I express it? I really like to express or give expression to the Awen in dance or in textile. I make things with textiles, bags, and those sort of things, and clothes. And
Okay.
probably I use it in my work as well, in the
Yes, as a
intuition.
psychologist, yeah.
Yeah, the intuition and the creativity that I use in my work. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. So, um, have there been times, when your Druidry has really, really supported you?
I think over these last years, Druidry is supporting me always because it feels always like a foundation that I can really turn to.
Uh-huh.
Uh, I can always, go back to my growth, my inner growth, to my guardians and ask for help and to really come home to myself. But there have been a couple of times in my life that it was especially important. So
Mhm.
one moment was in 2002. That was I was just finishing the Bardic grade, and I got a burnout at that time, and I wanted to change jobs,
Okay.
and I wanted to move to a different part of the country. And I think Druidry really helped me at that time to focus on what is really important in my life, what is my longing at this moment,
Hmm.
and finding ways how to manifest my dream. Because I think I've been aided by a little magic to create to create the new life that I wanted to live at that time. Yes.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you mentioned it earlier how you bring your Awan into your work. So, what kind of work do you do? Just, I know you're a psychologist, but just to let our viewers know what it is that you do.
Okay. I've been trained as a business psychologist. So
Ah,
I've
okay.
yeah, so I've always worked in coaching or facilitating
Okay.
people to develop their talents in their work life and facilitate people to find their purpose in life or their mission in their careers. And so at this moment, I'm working for a career counseling firm. So we
Okay.
help we help people who have lost their jobs, sometimes because there was a reorganization in the firm, or they were fired, or they had a burnout and want to, sort of find a new course in their work
Hmm.
life. And we facilitate them in finding their mission and their destiny. We call it their destiny in their work life. Yeah, it's great to do. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So it's really fulfilling to facilitate and to help people if they, I was just seeing something on television about the midlife crisis, and
uh-huh.
when I started work, people had a midlife crisis when they were 50 plus or something. But nowadays, it seems sometimes that people, are younger and younger when they are asking really fundamental questions like, where do I belong and where am I most happy and fulfilled in my work life? And so I'm really happy to be able to help people with those questions. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I know you work with mindfulness.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I've been meditating already a long, long time in the spiritual schools that I attended before I found Druidry. And so, one day after jogging into the forest, I thought, well, maybe it's a nice idea to give meditation classes. And at that time, my yoga teacher, she said, I'm looking for somebody to teach mindfulness and meditation in my school. So I started doing that. And a couple of months later, one of my best friends, she said, I'm going to do mindfulness teacher course. And I said, well, that might be a nice addition to
Yeah.
the meditation classes I'm giving anyway. So I started with a teacher training program and did that for a couple of years. And it's a wonderful addition to our clients. So at the company I'm working with, I give the mindfulness classes once or twice a year as an extra teaching for our clients, because sometimes they are so, they have anxieties or they feel restless or, they really want to learn to be more here and now. So we facilitate that for them. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. And of course, that ties in so well with, so you were doing the mindfulness before you joined the order, or did that particular mind, because I'm obviously as Druids, we practice mindfulness. We don't call it that, but that's what we do.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, I was already in Druidry, and then I did the teacher training course with, the Jon Kabat-Zinn format of mindfulness. Yeah, yeah. So I had some Buddhist retreats as well, and that's a beautiful blend with Druidry.
Lovely. Yes.
Yeah.
It's lovely how Druidry that you're able to weave in,
Yeah.
either techniques, traditions, perspectives into Druidry, and how they can work so well together. And each member makes their own recipe or their own salad or whatever it is, and it's lovely to be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I found out that some of the techniques in mindfulness, especially the techniques that help you to calm your mind and to really slow down of your thinking process and open you up in your senses and in your felt sense in your body, that helps so much in allowing, the Awen to come to you and to really allow sort of the trees and the plants to sort of meet you halfway in your consciousness, So it really helps me to become a sort of an open vessel and to put no expectations or no thoughts in between or no longings what I want to happen, but just be there and see what can emerge of something.
And it's like by being in that mindful state in that moment, it just clears the space for something to come in. Gabriella describes what I'm saying, a druid brew. You created your druid brew of mindfulness and whatever practices we've been doing in Druidry as well. But it's getting out of the way. And Anne says, this is a compliment to you, Marjorie, you have such a beautifully calming voice. It feels like a healing meditation just listening to you.
Thank you.
That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. So I call it wild mindfulness.
Okay. So tell me about the wild bit.
The wild bit.
Yes. Because you speak very softly and you're very gentle. And sometimes one could be forgiven for thinking you're not wild because you're very calm and gentle. Often that, that notion of wildness is that all over the place. And Gabrielle says, you are very soft-spoken, Marjorie, indeed. My nervous system relaxed completely. There's somebody else's. It's like a connection with ourselves. I agree about Marjorie's voice. So so
Well, my voice, I've always been really shy with my voice. The first time when I was on Iona at the retreat, I think that was in 2001.
okay.
I was visiting there with some good friends from the Netherlands, and they were very extrovert, and they were already trained in using their voice. And so we went to the chapel, and they started to chant together, and I was so shy I didn't dare to use my voice. So it took me some time to go to occult camps to
Yeah.
really learn to express myself a bit more spontaneous, also in dancing. And so it has been quite a learning process to allow myself to be a bit more daring in those situations. Yeah.
It strikes me that when you've had that challenge, that makes for a very good teacher, because you've had all of that, whatever the obstacles in your mind, I can't or I won't, and then that you can help somebody else to explore their journey, which I think is lovely to. Where if it's easy, sometimes it's harder to convey that to somebody. But when you've lived through that yourself, you can be a really good teacher. Michelle has a question. Do you have a podcast or online mindfulness classes?
Ooh, no, I don't. I don't have them yet.
Yet, okay. So I heard you.
I think it will be a project when I'm retired from work or something. I always have this feeling of, oh yes, I want to develop this or I want to develop that, but somehow time flies. So who
Yes,
knows?
not enough
Yeah.
hours in the day. So tell me, to come back to your wild mindfulness, tell me a little bit about that.
For me, that is a combination of using mindfulness to slow down and to become more quiet and to become more sort of like this opening up to being really aware and awake on what is going on inside.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes I feel when I do only mindfulness that there is a certain sort of a dryness. It's not the right word. I hope I'm not offending really Buddhist mindfulness practitioners, but I long then to feel the the complete beingness of the elements, the strong wind, the really raw power of the wind as well, and really connecting with the strength and the aliveness of the elements and everything alive in nature. That is for me such a great combination to really experience our own aliveness as well, and to really recognize that we are nature, also with the roughness and
Yep.
the strength. I've been in Tibet, and nature is you can only be in awe when you experience the strength and the roughness of the nature of the mountains there. So that combination is sort of heaven for me.
And I still get that I just, because I was wondering where's the wild and the mindfulness coming in. And I really get it now by weaving in the elements, and just even your description of the wind.
Yeah.
And we've had some wild winds at the moment these last few days, and how powerful that is. And yet you can stay in that moment, in that place. And I can see the energy, or how you can become so much more energized.
Yeah.
That appeals to me. I mean, I think for many, the quiet one will appeal to others, but I think there are a lot of us for whom the wildness will certainly call to us.
Yeah. And that is something that I have such good memories of all the years that I've been to camps, especially the Opot camps in the UK.
Yeah.
because, we've experienced some wildness over there.
And unfortunately, I never attended. So tell us a little bit of your favorite wild experience, if it's not too much information, but it'd be lovely to hear it.
My most favorite wild experiences of camp have been dancing. One of the first camps I attended, we had a 5 rhythm dance around the fire, and it was really cold. And I think there were 6 live musicians.
Wow.
And it was fantastic. And, we started with, rain jackets and warm jumpers. And I had my my boots on, and, and shawls and scarves. And it was so cold. And we started with the dance, and we danced for maybe an hour or an hour and a half. And in the end, we were all sky-clad. It was
brilliant.
so, because of the fire and the dance, and that space of really being able to be yourself.
Beautiful.
And to explore, how you can live Druidry and express yourself that way. So most of the times for me, dancing also in the ceremonies was a fantastic experience. And another outrageous evening was that, I'm not sure who it was, but there was made a hot tub with these straw bags. I don't know what the word is. These straw bales.
Yeah.
And I think it was a hot tub made for 4 people. But one evening we sat maybe with 15 people in the hot tub, drinking white wine and eating apple pie and singing songs together. Those are very special memories. Yeah.
Brilliant, like sardines in a can. So you say the hot tub was made of straw bales?
Yeah. So the basis was straw bales, and there was a log. Yeah, and there was a log fire underneath that heated the water. Somehow, there are people from Obot who are so, creative and technically knowing all those things of how to make sauna out of a little caravan. So, yeah.
Oh, I wish I'd seen it. That sounds absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Someone else says you should make the class in mindfulness so we can pay for your retirement. That's from Alfie.
Who knows what will come out of the cauldron? There is a project of which I'm really sort of longing to spend some time in, because I've been trained in a Druidic model, and Thea is the person who had the inspiration for it. I had the opportunity of helping Thea with bringing this idea into the world with. I think in total maybe 14 or 15 workshops that we gave, and she called it the Way of Anu.
Okay.
And it is a model of the wheel of the year and the interplay of sun and moon, masculine and feminine development with 8 archetypes around the festivals. And it's such a beautiful model of really learning much more about ourselves in relationship to the landscape of the wheel of the year. And so sometimes I long to find time and ways to develop that model a bit more, and find ways how to teach about it. Who knows? Yeah.
And will you? Thea's not doing that now, but will you continue with that, or are you still doing it, or is that all in the past?
We have finished the project in 2016.
Okay.
After we had two women groups and one group of men, and Adrian was the teacher of the group of men. And then we had one weekend where the men and the women had a retreat together, and then we finished on Iona. Yeah, that was fantastic. I hope that I can find new ways to teach the model, maybe with Adrian, and hopefully I can assist Thea in writing the book, because the people who have been trained by her, they really long for a book, and
Okay.
I've offered my help for her to write it together. So hopefully we will find time in the next couple of
Lovely.
years. Yeah.
Wonderful. Just to get back to your sauna, Sandy Coombs, who's in Tintagel, that sauna was brilliant. I spent many happy times in there. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, Sandy, or
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
So, and you're also a mentor, because this is something, that your contribution to the order and the wonderful work that mentors do in supporting the members navigate their way through all the gwers. So what is it like for you as a mentor?
For me, it is really special. I was taking a pause because I was sort of looking at some of the people who are doing the course, like they are standing there in my room. It feels really a privilege, and it is, for me, it is really special to be able to walk along the path with people. Sometimes you never meet them, and some people we meet because the Netherlands is a small country and we know most of the people here in the community. To share and to be a listener and to be a witness of what people learn, what they experience in these private moments in their growth with their guides and their guardians. Sometimes their life struggles and how they try to incorporate Druidry in their lives, and the challenges they meet. And so it feels really special to be able to listen, to sometimes give advice, and sometimes to just be there for them as somebody who listens and can hold them in what they experience, especially if they experience hard times. So yes, I'm really glad that I'm, being allowed to be a mentor. Yeah.
Yes, I think that's one of the the special things about the order as a teaching order, that the gwers are accompanied, by a mentor that you choose when, not, you don't choose your mentor is assigned to you, but that a safe relationship that is on your terms, as a mentee or as a student of the gwers. But to have that person there to support you along the way, I think, or accompany you, I think is just beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And Linda Jones says that's a lovely space that you're coming from as a tutor.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
What would you say has been your greatest achievement? What is it that you're most proud of in terms in your life?
It's really nice because this is the second time today that this question is asked to me. I had an application interview today for a new client, and it was a combination of an interview and an assessment center. And she also asked me that question, and I said, well, actually, when I'm looking back and preparing myself for that interview and preparing myself today with meeting you. And I look back, I'm just proud of where I'm standing now, just in becoming more and more the person that I am. And I've always been I've always had a combination of being ambitious and being also a bit insecure. So that means
one balances the other, you mean?
maybe they have been balancing each other, but sometimes they have also been, sort of hindering each other. That, my ambition drove me forth in wanting to reach a certain position in my career.
Mhm.
I've been living for quite some times in relation to expectations of others, of living the life of which I thought, if I live it this way, then my parents will be proud of me, or it is, what society asks of me. But also needing to work hard to reach those goals and those ambitions. And slowly over the time also, and I think Druidry helped me a lot in that, I've becoming more and more at ease with, just who I am. And more sort of developed towards, I don't know, my natural self, or, and every now and then there's still, struggles and sort of, but and so I think that's something that I'm really proud of. And also, when I look at where I am now as a professional,
Yeah.
sort of looking at the way I facilitate people to overcome their insecurities, to find their self-confidence again in life, to really find their inner compass again in life.
Mm-hmm.
And we facilitate professionals, but also directors. We facilitate politicians, mayors of, cities.
Uh-huh. Okay.
I think, I've become the person that I wanted to become.
I like that, help people to recognize their own internal compass. And certainly that's part of the order, is that we have our own internal moral compass. But because once we have that, then we can walk along our path without somebody else always telling us which way to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if we can help people find that also with their, with the elements, the wheel of the year, but also with their guides and their guardians, that is such a wonderful gift for people in our order if they can find that.
Do you, I mean, obviously, as a mentor, you can use that kind of language.
Mm-hmm.
Are you able with your clients to use that kind of language, or are you able to introduce the concepts using different language, or how do you do it?
I think I've always sort of lived in two worlds. That is, I think that is a sort of a theme in my life.
Uh-huh.
I've always crossed bridges, I think.
Okay.
When I was in high school, I played hockey, that was quite a sort of a fancy sport, but
Mhm.
I was also in demonstrations against the South African government and against Chilean apples.
Yes.
And also when I was at university, I was quite sort of left-wing psychology student, but I was also a member of a quite a posh student fraternity. And then I started my career, and I was already doing a lot of classes in spirituality, but I was also working for one of the largest banks in the Netherlands.
Okay.
so 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 I think I've had some practice in using the language to build bridges.
That's beautiful.
So I adapt my style and my communication towards my clients, and some clients, they are not open for it,
Yeah.
but I think um, I'm quite open, I'm quite honest, and sometimes a bit teasing, and sometimes a bit sort of probing, and
Yeah.
throwing something into the cauldron and see how they respond. So last week I was giving a workshop, and there was a CEO of one of the quite a large banks in the Netherlands was in my company, and we just do meditation, and I just talk about what is a mission and how they can find it, and we are talking about values, and sometimes it is really new for them. And this guy, he was really open, and he was questioning, and he was curious, and sometimes they have a longing as well to connect to something deeper and to something more valuable than just work and earn a lot of money. And sometimes they are not open to become aware of another way of thinking. So I think it's just sensing how far can I go with being open-minded about what I do in life. Yeah.
And it's lovely that, that thing, like that metaphor of the bridge, to bring them together, because they don't have to be mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
That biblical thing, it's easier for a camel to get through the eye of a needle than a rich man into heaven. And I'm not suggesting we talk about heaven, but that notion that, people engage in the business world or in the making of money, that it's not compatible with spirituality. And yes, it can be. And the more you weave the spiritual into that world, I think you soften it. You bring about a compassion and again, awakening that internal compass, that moral compass for people to maybe evaluate their actions in a different way or in a deeper way.
Yeah, that's what I hope. I really hope. I already experienced that so many more people, they want to be much more conscious about their values and the way their decisions affect other people, but also the earth and nature. And a lot of people are really longing to be more meaningful with what they do in their lives. But so many are really searching for how to do it. And so I can be really inspired also by people like Meg McCartney, who really try to influence decision makers into be much more aware of the impact of decisions on nature and everything that lives.
Absolutely.
So if we can open the way to find inspiration, to find words, to find people who have already taken the steps, that will open up new ways, I feel. Yeah, them as well. Yeah.
Philippa says that's very hopeful that people at CEO level is sometimes open to this spiritual way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, even if there are little steps, there are steps that need to be taken, I think. Yeah.
Yes. There's a question you may not want to answer. It's not the question I asked, but somebody else has asked it. What's your strongest fear? Because the reason they ask it is that it's through your fear that you grow. I'll just look at it. Yeah, through fear we find true strength. I don't know if you agree with that, or is this something you'd be happy to answer?
The strange thing is with fear, it can sort of come out of nothing, especially the last couple of years. You could sense fear without there being a sort of a cause that you could grab. There are some things that you need to be aware of, and that you can plan to sort of reduce fear about something that can happen in the future. But some fears are sort of, I wouldn't say irrational, but if they're not tangible, a lot of fears not tangible. And I think one of my fears is has to do with disconnectedness.
Yeah.
One of my fears is about rejection from the people that I really love. I know that is a fear of me. And I think one of the fears I have is maybe it has to do with, being really out of control. That really difficult situations, flow over you like a sort of a tsunami, and you feel powerlessness to handle it or to solve it or to find solutions. I think if I really look into my fears, those are two I can experience every now
Uh-huh.
and then. Yeah,
And
yeah,
I think we can learn a lot from our fears
yeah.
instead of getting rid of them or saying, you shouldn't be frightened of whatever that is.
Uh-huh.
That it's something that is something you can explore because it takes you into that place of vulnerability. And when you are willing to look into that place of vulnerability, you can be really surprised at what you do see.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
each one of us can do that in a different way.
yeah, I agree. I'm reminded of I've done a teaching on fear with a mindfulness teacher or
Uh-huh.
Buddhist teacher, and he was talking about the metaphor of sitting on a chair, on um, how do you call them, two, sort of, the chair is wobbly and it's almost falling backwards. That
Yeah.
sort of sense, like, that sort of, oh, I'm feeling insecure, I'm unstable.
Yeah.
And and so sometimes fear is telling you something, that you need to solve something, or that you really have to find inner resources to handle life problems. And sometimes it can also help you to find your inner strength, and realize that sometimes you are more strong than that you believe.
That's right. And just something has occurred to me. Where pain is like an alarm
Yeah.
that's telling you to attend to something. And so pain can be a really good thing. It can be a great motivator.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I think the same with fear is to look what is behind that fear. It may be another one, or maybe something else. And um, like I think a wonderful opportunity to go deeper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There has been one moment that I've been sort of looking into it, and I think that was one of the years that I'm self-employed,
Mm.
and I've experienced a year that after the financial crisis, the banking crisis here in the Netherlands, I didn't have a lot of work, and I've been really looking into it and really looking fear into the eye. And
Yes.
I was realizing that I thought, even if I lose everything, even if I lose my house, my finances, my everything, I can still be happy. That is what I really found out. I can still find meaning in my life, and I can still find happiness, also without any material, resources. And that is a big strength for me, I think.
I think that is a wonderful place to come to, because so often we run from our fears. I remember somebody telling me about somebody who had a recurrent nightmare that they
Yeah,
were being chased.
yeah.
And just before whoever was chasing them caught them, they would wake up. And this happened for years and years and years. And then they went to a healer. And then they came back and they had the same dream. But in the dream, after having that healing, they turned around to confront their fear. And it was somebody trying to give them a gift.
Oh no, really?
Yes.
Wow.
I thought, I just thought that, wow,
Yeah.
that is I remember thinking, oh my God, that when you turn around and confront your fear, it may be actually, like you were talking about the irrational fears. I mean, I suppose most fears are, well, they're learned. That to actually turn around and face it, and you can have that, oh, that's a gift.
Yeah.
It was just trying to reach out to me, but I assumed it was something bad. Yeah.
Right. That's interesting, isn't it? I've also sometimes heard that something that frightened a person that was in a meditation was sort of disguised in a sort of archetype.
Yeah.
And it was similar, like the story that you described. That after a long time, she found the courage to really sort of ask this archetype, show me your real face. And it turned out to be an inner part of her, which had a lot of strength and a lot of talents in it. So that is it is, I find it also in clients not easy to deal with fear and to really look into it, but it also have hidden gifts in it sometimes.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah.
I
remember as a child, I had lots of recurrent dreams of falling, and then I'd wake up before I fell. And then somehow I learned to become a leaf or a feather.
Oh, yeah.
So instead of, I would be, on a cliff and I could feel myself rolling off. And then I would just learn to, like a leaf, just float down. And it's just, I just find now if I have one, that's okay. I know I'm, this is nothing to fear. I can become a leaf or a feather. Gabriella says, she said, I learned very recently that some irrational fears do have explanations. For example, I've always been afraid of snakes, though no one in my family is. And I recently discovered through dreams that snakes, for me, are deep transformation. I used to have dreams about snakes, and obviously I was frightened of them. And anything that kind of crawled or wriggled. And I went to Kenya. That's a long time ago. I was working there. And I had a dream that outside my house, I was walking out, and there was a spitting cobra, with its ready to dance at me. In the dream, I walked up, I took my flip-flop off, I bopped it on the head, and I walked back. And I've never been or anything. I just no. And I've never been afraid of snakes since.
Nice image.
And years later, I remember my kids, when we'd go to, because I spent a lot of time in Africa, and we brought our kids there. And my son had said that he'd been in a snake park and that he had touched some constrictor snake. And I thought, oh my God, how did you do that? I just couldn't do that. Anyway, a year or two later, we went to, we have a snake park here, a reptile village in Kilkenny. And so it's full of, monitor lizards and snakes and all sorts of reptiles. And the guy who was there took out a snake and he said, would you like to touch it? And I thought, now, Eimear, okay, you've gotten over your fear. Just touch the snake. You're only just touching it. And it felt like very, very smooth leather. I thought it was going to be cold.
Yeah.
And it was lovely. And then I went around looking at other things. And then I passed the place again. And he said, would you like to hold the snake? So I said yes. So it was a boa constrictor. So they're not poisonous.
Yeah.
It wasn't a python. Okay. And I know in South America, they use boa constrictors as house pets to deal with vermin and things. So he put the snake around my waist, and this snake hugged me.
Really?
Yeah. I had the most profound experience. I thought, oh, and it was like for the rest of the day, I was going around, that experience when you first meet somebody and you fall in love with it. It was like that. I was zinging. It was an absolutely magical experience.
Wow.
Just that, it was so powerful. And again, I had confronted that gradually over periods of 30 years, 20 years. my fear to be able to say that is an amazing experience. So when I dream of snakes now, they're not negative. They're like
Wow.
friends.
Oh, fantastic. Wow. What a beautiful chance to heal that, isn't it? To be able to hold a snake. Yeah. Wow.
Right.
Yeah. Oh.
So
Mm.
yeah. And Alfie says, I love their little flicky tongues. I'm not so, that always makes me a little bit I kind of I draw back at that one. But I can now watch them,
Yeah.
move and that kind of thing. But it's
Yeah.
really interesting because they do get such bad press.
Sorry?
They get such bad press. I mean,
Oh,
from
yeah.
religions, that they're associated with evil and all of that stuff. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I mean, I love the notion of that they're the symbol of healing, transformation. They shed their skin in order to move forward and to grow. You get rid of your old skin, which could represent anything. It could be ridding your fears or whatever it is you need to let go of, that no longer serves you. So they're a great, I think, archetype for us as well.
Yes, yeah, definitely. But I'm sort of wondering what might be the bad press related about it. Maybe it is also to do with that they are sort of evasive, aren't they, snakes? They are so sort of independent. They just do their own thing. And they are silent, and sometimes they take you by surprise, and so maybe those are all those qualities of snake why they have gotten over the years
That's right.
such an
Well, I suppose in the book of Genesis, the serpent tempted.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they are wisdom, transformation, and I suppose it's that. I mean, they are very shy. They don't march up the street if they have a choice. Something that can't be controlled in some way, and that's always something to be feared by people who want certainty and control. Is that these creatures are very, very different.
Yeah. Sometimes I wonder how that would have looked like in Crete, in the the temples of the priestesses with all the snakes there, and in Egypt. Sometimes I really, would like to travel back in time and to really experience how that would have looked like with all the snakes.
Well, it's really interesting. I have a story. I have my friend Josephine. She's a Maasai woman, and she told me I've had two stories. And my friend Shaban, who's a healer in Tanzania, that I mean, Linda says some snakes are very aggressive in Australia. Unfortunately, yes. But Josephine was telling me, that there was a woman, and she went off to she was going to the fields to do some weeding. So she dug a little pit, kind of a shallow pit, and lined it with leaves. It's like a playpen for the baby. So she put the baby in, and then she went off doing her hoeing. And then she came back later to feed the baby. And to her horror, she saw a cobra in the baby, wrapped around the baby, and they were playing.
Wow.
But she was terrified. So she shouted at the snake and tried to get the baby. And each time she would, the snake would go.
Wow.
And she was really, really worried. So she went off to get some help. And this wise person said, what you need to do is give a saucer of milk to a bowl of milk at the edge of the pit. And she said, I'm not doing that. I don't see why I should do that. And then she tried again and again. They would do this. And she kept trying. And eventually someone says, you have to do that. And then she did. And she brought the bowl of milk. And with that, the snake drank it and disappeared. And so she says that the Maasai never, ever, they always believe that snakes are protective of children.
Wow. What a great story. Yeah.
And I have another one. Shaban told me his mother with his older brother. Again, she was hoeing in the fields, and she dug a shallow pit and lined it with leaves and put the baby in. And then when she came back, there was a python circling around it. And she screamed and she screamed and she screamed just to frighten the snake away, and ran away, and then came back. And then she picked up the baby. The snake was gone. And on the way back to her house, she could hear the voice of her father-in-law, who was in the other world, and said, "What were you doing, woman? Did you not know I was there protecting your child?" And again, in that family, they never kill snakes. And Shaban is a healer. And at one point, around he told me that story, he was living on the slopes of Kilimanjaro. He had never ever treated somebody with snake bite because nobody gets bitten in that area. And there are snakes there. There's a really interesting, two different tribes of people, and yet that notion of the protective qualities of snakes.
Yeah. It's beautiful, isn't it? How the animals, give us lessons.
That's right.
About how you also can be deceived by appearances.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And that there might be so much more, hidden medicine underneath what you think it is.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's even a homeopathic remedy, lachesis, that's snake venom. So it's just it's fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've dealt with the fear one. What's apart from getting into your trance dance, what's the most reckless thing you've ever done?
Most reckless thing I've ever done? Oh dear. The most reckless thing. I'm not sure. Well, I was starting to say I'm not sure if I've done reckless things, but yes, I think I've done a couple of. I've been in situations that were not very safe. For instance, I've been traveling to Sri Lanka. I was in India. I was in India traveling with a friend, and we were 23, 24 years old after graduation. And India was really, really hot. And it was quite challenging for us, for two young women traveling through India. And so we thought, let's go to Sri Lanka. And we went to Sri Lanka, and we thought it was safe in the country. But when we arrived there, we realized that there were elections in the country, and there was a lot of polarization between groups of people. Okay. So we ended up in the middle of a civil war in a village, and there was really a turmoil, and it was really, really dangerous. So I'm not sure if we were reckless, because we had been to the embassy in New Delhi to ask if Sri Lanka was safe, and they had advised us, and they said, yeah, Sri Lanka is safe. But that was a really dangerous situation. So we asked around in that village. There were quite a few Europeans who were working for NGO organizations. And we asked, what do you advise us to do? And they said, well, take first bus back to the capital city and hide for a couple of days in the luxurious hotel. And then see what happens in the country. So wow. So we were safe. And I wouldn't say that was reckless, but I've been in quite some hazardous situations while traveling. being in quite a heavy earthquake in Guatemala, and hiking in the north of Yemen, where some people had been kidnapped, but
lovely. Okay. Yeah.
All went well. Yeah.
Well, it's like, there's always that sense of, some kind of guidance or protection that you have, and that, maybe somebody else isn't fortunate enough, but that sense that there's somebody looking over you or looking out for you, which is lovely to be able to have experienced those and to travel to those places.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah.
We've got two more. Go on.
Yeah. So, maybe I haven't lived reckless enough, is what I'm thinking. Maybe I should do something outrageous, actually. I have experienced at camps, in really, really sort of stretching myself in what felt safe for me, like dancing in the,
Yes.
in the big circle, dancing, the spirit of the corn. And, for me, that felt really daring to do that. Yeah. Probably more daring than being in Sri Lanka in the Civil War.
On a cold night, yes.
And singing, and in the end, finally, I've sung a song with one of my Belgian friends from Albot in one of the big camps here in the Netherlands, and it was a camp, and the theme of the camp was honoring the goddess, and my friend invited me to sing together for the whole community. But what she chose, I said, okay, you choose the song that we will sing together. And what she did was she chose two Belgian songs sung by the women in the old days.
Ah,
But they were songs which had a double meaning. So there was a
yeah.
deeper layer in the songs, and they were actually quite, how would you call it, cheeky or something? They so yeah, we sung these songs at camp for the whole community. Well, for me that was quite daring to do, actually. Yeah,
Beautiful, beautiful.
yeah, yeah, that was great.
Well, I wish you well
Yeah.
in continuing your daringness, and may you have the best possible outcome.
Yeah.
Uh, There's two more just people sharing snake comments. Mandy says, I love stroking snakes. They're beautiful creatures which deserve a lot more love and respect. During lockdown, the adders on the cliffs at Tintagel covered the pathways as they emerged because of the silence. Now, that's really interesting.
Wow.
Dog walkers had to be careful, but most were really mindful because the snakes really thrived. That is lovely because you were talking about, because they are very, very shy. And I've never seen an adder. Because we don't have any snakes here in Ireland. I mean, in the wild, and I've never seen them over in the UK. I've only seen, even in Africa, I've seen very, very few snakes.
Yeah, me too.
And then
like they were guardians to the entrance of the cave underneath Tintagel or something like that. Wow, what a beautiful image.
they're on the pathways, but yeah, on the cliffs.
Yeah, wow. Yeah.
And then Poppy, who was from Crete. My grandfather in Crete had a snake living near his well and made sure no one would harm him because he believed the snake was a protector of his space. I think that's brilliant. It's just beautiful. Oh, Roland, who is Belgian, wants to know what's the title of that song with the double meaning.
Well, actually, it is a whole book. I forgot the title. I have to look it up. I can send a text to Roland about how the title of the book. It's really nice.
Not just wonderful. Do you have any regrets?
No, I don't think so.
That's lovely.
No, sometimes I'm thinking, do I really live and do the things that I really long to do? Since maybe my burnout, or since I started Druidry, every year I do a check-in. Do I really do the things that are most important to me? Because I feel living a life with regrets is a really difficult thing to deal with, especially if you get older, and if the chance to do it, is gone. So I believe I don't have any regrets. Maybe, small decisions that I had hoped that I, had done something and that it didn't happen. But no, I really don't think I have regrets, actually. There are still some things I would love to do in my life, but but I don't feel that I've missed something or that I had to have more courage to do things and that I didn't dare to do it.
And I think that check-in, because when you do a life review or do a yearly review,
Yeah,
that gives you an opportunity to say, okay, what regrets do I have this year? Well, either I can undo that, make amends, or make sure that I'm not living as in if only I had, or what if, that you can actually remedy that and move forward. So, yeah.
You know, that is a term that Philip uses in the course, which for me is a profound truth. It's about provisional living.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
When he was teaching about provisional living, I thought this is so worthwhile to really know what it means if you think, oh yes, I will do that next year. Oh yes, I will do that when I have more time.
Yeah.
And then life can slip through your hands. So I have learned really much from those words, provisional living, and I still use them a lot to my clients as
Yep.
well. You know, I'm so fortunate because the workshop that I give is about what is your mission, what is your strongest longing in life, and what can you do to live that and to achieve that. So I'm always helped to remind myself, yeah, am I true to my convictions or to my longings? Um, yeah, so that I think that helps me really to really sort of try and do my best.
Hmm?
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I remember doing this exercise, go forward to your deathbed, and what you want to be able to say, just think about, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. And if there's anything you would say, well, I wish I had, well, then go and do it now so that you don't get to the point when you're on your deathbed saying, if only I had that. And that's a really useful exercise. What do you want at the end of your life to be able to say? And go and do it now rather than saying, well, I have another 40 years. I'll do everything. And that comes back to the provisional or the provisional living. I'll do it later. Is do it now.
Yeah. Philip gave me his book about lessons in magic.
Yes.
And I pick it up, every now and then, doing the exercises again, that exercise about having, doing, and being, and reminding myself, it's so much more about being and experiencing than having or doing even. And yeah, so it is a really helpful compass to check. Now, am I where I really want to be?
Yeah.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I suppose, being on this path and, you're going your journey through the course, they provide you with an opportunity to go back and review, because it's very much not just a spiritual development path, but very much a personal one. And that it gives you that chance to do a review and to go and make amends, remedy, or take you to make choices that you're not regretting.
Yeah.
And
I think,
maybe you can do it next year, but that it's still there, that allows you an opportunity to do, to stop doing what you might regret having done, or to start doing something that you might regret not having done.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, I really think we are fortunate that we have the wheel of the year.
Yes.
And all these cycles again and again with all the rituals. And every year around Samhain, you can really sort of feel, what is it that I really want to let go of? What is it that I really can sort of drop? And then in the next cycle, start with longings again and start again with a new cycle. So I think we are really fortunate in how we are helped in our lives with the wheel of the year and the cycles. Yeah.
That's right. And Corey Raven, who was my guest last week, says regrets can make you sad, but also stronger and wiser.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, one regret I have is that I didn't wake up earlier, that I didn't start listening to myself sooner. And then when I look back, because I think, oh, if only I had been a bit, when I look at my daughter, who is just so much more confident in herself and in tune with herself and knowing her truth at a much earlier age to me. I was very compliant. And then I think, well, but that was my path that, you know, I suffered as a result of not having trust in myself, but I've gotten over that. You know, I'm not still carrying the scars, but that, you know.
Would you have been different if you had awakened up earlier?
Well, that's the thing, you know, because maybe I have no idea. Yeah.
Mm.
You know,
It's an interesting question, isn't it? My father took us to a meditation class with the whole family. I think I was 11. I wasn't even allowed in the meditation course because they found me too young. So I had to wait for a year, and so I started doing meditation when I was 12. You know, it was impossible
very young.
to keep doing it because our lives were really full when we were at high school, and we had our job, and we had to cycle to school, and we had our our sports and things. But I think I really had to go through my difficulties and my hang-ups and
That's
my
right.
insecurities anyway, even if I had being meditating already from that early age on and kept doing it. So
That's right.
I'm not sure what the difference would be for us.
I know. And Michelle says, I always reflect on that same exercise. I don't want to have any regrets in my life. And the regrets I had from my younger years have led me to where I am now. Now my motivation in life is not to die with regrets. Absolutely. And Alfie, who says, I wouldn't say I don't have regrets. I just try not to dwell on the things I can't change. Very, very sound, which is a bit of a double-edged sword because there's definitely some things I need to revisit. And so there is that about do not dwell on things that cannot change. But it's that idea of going back and doing a review and maybe you can tweak something.
Yeah. You know, that's why I really enjoy doing these exercises of making a life review and looking back and really sensing if you are on the right track. And you know, that's why I think we are also very fortunate people who have the opportunity to meet the community and do rituals together and to to share experiences, so we can really inspire and learn from each other as well.
Absolutely. And when I think of regrets, there's something that's beside it. Like, what are you grateful for?
What I'm grateful for, so much. You know, I'm really grateful for my parents who have supported me and my brothers in choosing our path. They have made so much possible for me. All my friends, my whole family, my friends, my colleagues, there's so much I'm grateful for. The community, colleagues, books, writers who have given their teachings, their experience. All my teachers. I'm very grateful for all my teachers. Yeah. You know, even the place where I live, and even, being here in my country with so many possibilities and so many good things in life. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you just mentioned books. What books have you read that, inspired you or had a big impact on you, on your life?
for sure, for a lot of people in Obot, the books about the Mist of Avalon have been a big source of inspiration. But even this book that I'm rereading at the moment is from Lynn Andrews.
Okay, I
Lynn
don't know.
Andrews.
That's a woman.
Lynn Andrews is she's an American woman who has written books about her shamanic development with her Native American teachers, and
Okay.
she has been a source of inspiration for me. But also, you know, our teachers in Obot, you know, with the books Penny wrote, the books Philip wrote,
Mhm.
the
Christopher.
books Christopher, Caitlin, and John. You know,
Yeah,
I'm so fortunate that you know that they have written down their wisdom and not only given us workshops, but also you
that's
know
right.
wrote it down. Who's another teacher that I really like? I forgot her name. You know, sometimes you know names sort of you know walk out of my head. This American woman who wrote a lot about shamanism, Sandra Ingerman.
Ah,
She has
okay. Yeah.
also Sandra
Oh,
also has
yeah.
been a source of inspiration also for the meditation and ritual course. But also, you know, teachers like Hamid Ali. He writes under the name of Almaas.
Okay.
And Almaas is the founder of a spiritual school, and he writes about consciousness and about personal development. I
Okay.
really like him as a teacher. Um, oh, so many books of wisdom.
Well, I'm going to share a triad that Corey has. Here's a teaching for everybody. An old triad: things avoided by the wise druid, expecting the impossible, grieving over the irretrievable, and fearing the inevitable.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
so. What would you say? We're looking at those. A concern you have about the modern world. What concerns you?
Hmm. What concerns me is I'm not sure what the right word is in English.
Uh-huh.
Um, you know, I've come to realize that a lot of the people that started their careers almost at the same time as me. You know, I've experienced that also in the bank.
Okay.
I've when I worked at a bank, it was the beginning of the sort of the you know the unrealistic growth of the salaries in the banking system. Um, you know, I see people who are doing their best in life.
Uh-huh.
They really want to be successful in life. They really think that they are, you know, doing their best in what life and what their jobs are expecting of them. But sometimes they maybe they haven't learned or haven't been awakened to really think deeper about the consequences of decisions.
Okay. Yeah.
And there are still so many people sort of sleepwalking in the way they behave, the way they buy things, um, the way they think everything will be okay. Oh, it's not so bad as people say it. I think it is that sort of that's almost it's not sleep, you know, it's not like sleepwalking,
Yeah.
but not really being critical and conscious in thinking about consequences of decisions, especially for future generations. And that is sometimes something that I can be really sort of not angry about, but
Mhm.
um, worried about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so thinking of that, what gives you hope?
what gives me hope is young people. Young
Yeah,
people
yeah.
give me hope, you know? And, like what you're saying about your daughter and, young people who are really aware and awake, wanting to do things different than their parents.
Yep.
The people who are, active in Extinction Rebellion, people who are active in Active Hope, all the people who are doing their best to help nature, that gives me hope. Yeah, yeah.
What's lovely. And with that, we're going to have to end. But my last two questions are, which is
Yeah.
what I ask everybody: what is your favorite season of the year, and what is your favorite ceremony? On the wheel of the year.
Hmm. Hmm. Difficult question because I like them all, I think.
Yeah.
Not midsummer. Midsummer is too the energy of midsummer usually is a bit too high for me. It's
Okay.
too strong. So I think around Alban Eimear and Beltane. I think in between. That's my favorite season.
Oh, spring and summer. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And but I think my favorite ceremony is Imbolc.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
Just wanted to come back. Pagan Jester says, worked as a teacher during the pandemic and seeing kids afraid of hugging each other was rough. Most of them did it anyway because they're kids and they will interact, but seeing them confused was rough. I couldn't agree with you more. I think that was one of the hard things around seeing people to be afraid of touch, and
Yeah.
some still afraid. We've
Yeah.
come through it. I think that was because
Yeah.
how important it is to touch and be connected. It's
Mm.
I think that its importance was under its value and its importance, and actually, it's not just important; it's essential. Was
Yeah. Yeah.
not
Yeah.
taken into account.
Mm. Mm.
Anyway, listen,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Maria. I really, really enjoyed our chat. I had no
Yes.
idea where it was going to go,
Oh.
and it was just lovely to just to engage with our audience as well, and particularly that question around fear,
Yeah.
because I don't usually ask that one, and
Mm.
it's just lovely to have had that conversation and where it went. Michelle says, thank you so much to you both. This will be another fireside chat that I'm sure I'll watch over again. It's been a pleasure listening to Marjorie, such a beautiful, wise druid. You are
Thank you.
there. So that means
Uh,
good night and blessings
thank
to everybody. So I'll allow you say good night, and then I'll close.
It was a pleasure, it was I can realize how much I love our community and our spirituality, and how much aliveness it gives to us all, and inspires us with our creativity to live the lives that we really long for. So we are really fortunate. And really thank you for allowing me to get with you this way with our unexpected avenues.
That's right. And I
It was
wouldn't know
wonderful.
all this. I find selfishly, I really enjoy these chats because I get to know members that I've met you before, but I've never had a conversation like this. So it's
Yeah.
just lovely for me to be able to get
Yeah.
a sense of you. And it has been such a joy. I'm going to send you back, but we will look at the comments in a minute. So I'll just let you say goodbye to everybody, and then I'll just say goodbye to people.
Okay. All right. Thank you all for listening.
Okay. So thank you all for your wonderful comments. And of course, as usual, we don't get to look at all of them or to address them. But I really, really appreciate how you add to our conversations, and that it's not just my guest and myself, but that you're also involved. So I look forward to seeing you again next week for another fireside chat. And until then, ihawa, good night or good afternoon or good morning. And enjoy the rest of your time until we meet again Slán go fóill.